My name is Ben Weiner. I'm an Inclusionary Housing Specialist with the City of Somerville's Housing Division. Today, I'd like to present to you an upcoming homeownership opportunity. It is a resale of a one-bedroom condominium located at 375 Canal Street in Somerville's Assembly Row. This affordable homeownership opportunity originally became available as a result of the Somerville Zoning Ordinance and inclusionary zoning. At the time of the permitting of this development, 20% of the units in the development were required to be affordable. Affordable means, in this case, to households making up to 80% of the area median income. These units then remain affordable in perpetuity, including resales, such as this one. In order to ensure that these units remain affordable in perpetuity, we require both an affordable housing restriction to be recorded along with the master deed for the entire project, as well as a deed rider for each affordable unit that is purchased. The restrictions on this deed rider are important for anyone interested in homeownership through our program to be aware of, and need to be shared with any potential lenders as well, as not all lenders will accept these restrictions. One of these restrictions is that the unit must be the buyer's primary and principal residence year-round. That means that it cannot be rented either short or long-term in its entirety or rented by rooms. This is something that the Housing Division's compliance team will monitor annually, ensuring that the unit is being used as the primary and principal residence. Another restriction is that if a buyer is looking to refinance, the city must be notified and you must receive written consent from the city in order to refinance. Additionally, if you are looking to sell an affordable unit, the city must be notified in writing. Lastly, and a very important point to note, is that the resale prices of affordable units will be calculated by the city. These prices are not calculated according to current market values and also do not guarantee a specific percentage gain in value. The city can guarantee that a resale price is not set lower than the initial price. However, ultimately, the city must determine that the resale price is affordable at the same tier as the initial sale. In this case, affordable to households making up to 80% of the area median income. 375 Canal Street, also known as Alloy Condominiums, was built along a segment of Assembly Row and is connected to the Row Hotel on Foley Street, as well as a next-door parking garage, which includes one parking space for the buyer of the condominium. The development was originally completed and the condominium purchased in 2019, and it has had one previous owner. The condo, number 602, is located on the 6th floor. The neighborhood in Assembly Row features shops, restaurants, access to public transportation, and a lot more. This slide shows some of the specifications and features of the unit. For more information, go to the last slide in the presentation where you can find a link for information about the Alloy condominiums, as well as the email address of the Inclusionary Housing Program, inclusionary@somervillema.gov. Please reach out if you have any additional questions. This slide includes some of the services and establishments conveniently located at nearby Assembly Row. In addition, owners at Alloy Condominiums have access to some of the amenities and services offered at the attached Row Hotel, such as the Pool Oasis and Modern Fitness Center, and other services included on this slide. Alloy number 602 is a one-bedroom, one-bathroom condominium. As you enter the condominium, you'll find the kitchen to the left, separated from the living and dining room area by a kitchen island with quartz countertop and an undermount sink, and the bathroom to the right. The flooring in this main area is wood, and the master bedroom, past the kitchen and connected to the living dining space, is carpeted. This slide includes the sale price of $181,894, as well as the initial monthly condo fee of $152. The minimum down payment is $5,457, and the approximate monthly property taxes calculated by the city are $140.25, which can be subject to change. Eligibility requirements for this homeownership opportunity include a household asset limit of $250,000, which excludes retirement, college, and health savings plans, The head of household may not be a full-time student, and in the case of two heads of household, both heads of household cannot be full-time students. And lastly, that the household must be income eligible, making at or below 80% of the area median income. Beyond those basic eligibility requirements are some additional requirements for this homeownership opportunity. First of all, applicants for this opportunity must be first-time homebuyers, which in this case means they cannot have owned property or interested property within the last 3 years. Applicants must also have completed a first-time homebuyers course or be enrolled in a first-time homebuyers course that will be completed by the date of the lottery. You should have a certificate or proof of this enrollment. Next, applicants must be pre-approved for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage in order to qualify for an inclusionary homeownership opportunity. The letter from the lender needs to include an interest rate or range of interest rates. It must cover the price of the unit minus the down payment that the applicant intends to make. Additionally, this approval must have been subject to credit, employment, and asset verification in order to meet the requirement of our program. Letters from internet banking sites such as Quicken Loans or Rocket Mortgage do not meet this requirement. Lastly, applicants must be able to demonstrate sufficient assets to cover the down payment, minimum of 3%, as well as closing costs. Individuals to be considered household members include all persons intending to move in and reside in the unit within the first year, related or unrelated. This will include anyone under or over 18, whether or not that individual receives income. It also includes temporarily absent household members, such as dependents of the head of household that are away attending college. In the instance of joint custody of children, if a child would reside in the household 183 or more days of the year, they would be considered a member of your household. Lastly, in cases of divorce or separation from a spouse or partner, if that process is ongoing, you are required to show evidence of that spouse or partner's residency elsewhere. Otherwise, they will be considered a member of your household for the purposes of inclusionary housing. In order to determine your household's income eligibility, you can refer to this annual income chart. These guidelines are updated on an annual basis in early or midsummer, so you should look for the newest guidelines for each separate opportunity for which you apply. In calculating your income, note that it should be your gross income, which is not what you take home, but is your pre-tax income. Please note that for opportunities such as this one that are set at an 80% of the area median income affordability level, there is no minimum income requirement. However, the affordability of this opportunity for your household would be determined by your lender, and your pre-approval for a mortgage would verify that affordability. When we talk about income counted in certifications for this program, we refer to all income received by members of the household and on behalf of members of the household, monetary or otherwise, and even if that member of the household is temporarily absent. You should take into consideration also any anticipated income, as our income calculations are done looking at the next 12 months following your income certification. We also count interest accrued from assets to which any member of the household has access, which includes any joint accounts. If those assets are worth $5,000 or more, then that interest will be considered income. Please note it is your responsibility to divulge your income and changes in income accurately. So if you are unsure of how to count your income or of what tier you will fall into and need assistance, please reach out to the inclusionary team and we can help you to review your income and asset documentation. On this slide, you'll find some examples of different types of income and assets, and it's important to talk about these forms of income and assets as some of them can be forgotten. Again, you should consider all income that you anticipate receiving within the next 12 months. What comes to mind for many when they hear income are wages or salary from employment. Also included as income is unemployment, Social Security or disability benefits, child support, which includes even if the provider of the child support is in arrears or has fallen behind on payments. Individuals that are self-employed also have income, even if it's an unreliable source of income or you're not paid on a regular basis. It would need to be reported at your income certification. Gig work, fundraising events, or accounts such as GoFundMe, selling of art or profits from yard sales, etc. are all forms of income, as well as the previously mentioned interest or dividends from assets that are at or in excess of $5,000. Next, included on this slide in terms of assets for this program, besides a standard savings or checkings account, there are also mutual funds. There are any type of investment account or retirement account, and any cryptocurrency that you currently hold. Also apps such as Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Robinhood. We also require a certification of your current cash on hand, and that should be disclosed previously in your application. Please note that regardless of if there is a balance in an account or if there is a negative balance or $0, you must provide documentation of all accounts. This includes accounts in the USA or abroad, and joint or shared accounts that any or all members of the household have access to, even if somebody from outside your household has access to that account as well. Here are some of the questions we will be taking into consideration during your income certification, and are also things that you should take into consideration. Some examples are if your household will see any changes in employment or income during the next 12 months. That can include raises, commissions, loss of employment, new employment, etc. Any seasonal income the household has, which can include overtime during holidays or other times of year. Additional clients or contracts that a self-employed individual plans to receive as well. You should also consider your pay frequency, whether it is weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, etc., when you are calculating your income and considering the documentation that you will need to provide for your income certification. This next slide contains some tips on ensuring your reported income is as accurate as possible. First, for members of the household that are actively employed, it may be beneficial to check with your manager, HR, or union rep about any changes in hours, anticipated raises, or other changes in income. For all bank accounts held or jointly held by household members, you should review 3 full months of the most recent statements to ensure you know the origins of any and all deposits made into that account, and to review whether they are considered income that you should be reporting. During your income certification, we will review these deposits and require notarized affidavits explaining any deposits over $100 that cannot be easily verified as income that you've previously reported receiving. Next, you should review your federal tax returns for all household members. We require each household's federal tax returns for the last 3 years, and that does include all pages, schedules, and W-2s. Again, if you know that your income will change within the next 12 months, that's something important to disclose as well. Once you've reviewed all of that information, you can calculate your household's gross pre-tax income. We do provide a page in our application packets that can be a helpful tool in doing this as well. Along with the submission of a pre-lottery application, in order to be entered into the lottery, we require that you submit your mortgage pre-approval letter for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, your first-time homebuyers course certificate, or proof of enrollment in a course that will end prior to the date of the lottery, and, if applicable, verification of Somerville Preference, all of which will be covered in the following slides. On pre-approval letters, such as this sample, we look to make sure that the loan amount covers the cost of the home minus the down payment that the household plans on making. The amount of this down payment should be disclosed in the assets section of your application in order for us to verify your eligibility. The letter for pre-approval should include that it is a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage and should include an interest rate or range of interest rates that the lender will offer you. The expiration date on the letter needs to be valid at the date of the lottery. It cannot have expired at that time. You should also read the letter carefully to make sure that there aren't any unusual conditions in the letter or any conditions that may make it difficult for you to actually receive your loan. And as a reminder, we only accept mortgage pre-approvals from actual lending institutions, so not from online sites that may provide pre-approvals, such as Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. If you are unsure whether a lender would be considered a lending institution, you can reach out to the inclusionary team with those questions. The second piece of documentation that we need to determine that your pre-lottery application is complete is a first-time homebuyers course certificate or enrollment in a first-time homebuyers course that will end prior to the date of the lottery. This course must be approved by the Massachusetts Homebuyers Collaborative. You can find a link to those classes on this page. You should note that the classes are located both online and in person currently and are throughout the greater Boston area, so you should be paying attention to the location and checking on the associated fees for the classes, as well as languages if you have a preference of the language of this course. And one final note on this slide is that for this opportunity we will be extending by 1 week the date at which you have to have completed your first-time homebuyers course if you have just enrolled in a first-time homebuyers course. So in this case, you will have until February 17th to have completed that course. The third document we require pre-lottery, if applicable, is proof of living or working in Somerville. These preferences are considered co-equal, so if you work 32 plus hours in Somerville, you have just as much of a preference as somebody that currently lives in Somerville. And if you do not live or work in Somerville, you can still apply. We only require your mortgage pre-approval and the first-time homebuyers verification with your pre-lottery application. If you do live in Somerville or work in Somerville 32 hours or more, you must submit a verification that is less than 30 days old at the time of your pre-lottery application in order to receive preference. Individuals that do live or work in Somerville are strongly encouraged to provide this verification, as it does improve your chance of being at the top of the list for an opportunity to purchase a unit. For example, if 10 households are selected for a unit and only 5 of those households have a Somerville live or work preference, those 5 individuals would be the first 5 at the top of the list, with the possibility to move forward with the process of purchasing a unit. The other 5 households would remain on the list, but in positions 6 through 10. For individuals providing verification of living in Somerville, this verification must include the full name of a household member, their Somerville address, and the date of the document. The date of that document needs to be within 30 days of the pre-lottery application. You should also ensure that it is not a due date, such as the due date of a bill payment, but the actual issuance date of the bill or statement. If the document is more than 1 page, we will also need all pages of that document to be provided, and all of those pages in their entirety, so we cannot accept screenshots of partial documents showing an address or a date. And some examples of documents that can be used to verify your live-in Somerville preference include a utility bill, a cell phone bill, a credit card statement, current lease, or voter registration letter. Please note that in the case of using a voter registration letter as proof of Somerville residency, the actual verification of being registered to vote in Somerville is what is required. So a screenshot or copy or photo of an individual's application that they've completed to register to vote would not be sufficient. We need the actual verification that someone is registered to vote. Here's an example of a utility bill that could be used as proof of residency. The arrows on the slide point to the statement date at the top of the bill, which is the date that should be within 30 days of your pre-lottery application. So again, not the due date, but that statement date, as well as the name and address of the applicant. Eversource utility bills like this one are also frequently 2 pages, and in those cases, both pages must be submitted and the entire pages. As an example, we could not just accept the bottom part of the page where the name and address of the household are provided as proof of residency. The reason for that being that it does not include the statement date that is provided at the top of this document. If you are submitting preference as an individual working 32 or more hours in Somerville, this verification must include the full name of the individual working in Somerville, the address of the place of employment within Somerville, and the number of hours worked per week in Somerville. Documentation that may verify this includes a pay stub, a letter from your employer, or proof of business ownership in Somerville. Please be aware that these forms of documentation must include the Somerville address at which the household member works. At times, pay stubs may have, for example, a headquarters or central location that's located in a different town or city. And in those scenarios, the individual would need to request a letter that includes that Somerville address at which they work 32 or more hours a week. For Tufts employees, it's important to ensure that the location in which you work is actually within the boundaries of the city of Somerville. And you have to provide a verification of that, such as a letter from your employer, and that verification must include that Somerville address as well. For individuals that contract or work in co-working spaces in Somerville, they cannot receive a work in Somerville preference. The reason being, it is not possible to verify sufficiently that the individual works 32 plus hours in Somerville specifically on a weekly basis. And additionally, individuals that are employed or have been extended job offers for a not yet established business in Somerville can also not receive this preference. In other words, in order to actually receive the work in Somerville preference, you must be actively working already those 32 or more hours in Somerville and provide us with that verification. This slide includes all of the documentation that needs to be complete and submitted at the time of your pre-lottery application. Your pre-lottery application must also be submitted all at once with all supporting pieces of documentation, as we do not accept piece by piece or piecemeal applications and documentation. If it's useful, you can save this slide to use as a personal checklist for your application materials. This slide just serves as a reminder that the consequences of not disclosing your income accurately can result in disqualification from this opportunity and the loss of opportunity to purchase an affordable unit. If you have any questions or need any help with calculating your household's income, please contact us using the information on the final slide. We encourage households to submit their applications as early as possible, as housing divisions will review applications on an ongoing basis as we receive them. And if submitted early enough, we may have a chance to review your application and inform you of any missing or incomplete documentation prior to the application deadline. Please do submit all of your documentation at once, but the earlier you do submit just gives us an opportunity to review. In the instance that there is something missing or it needs to be completed differently, we can reach out to you to do that. And please note, we will not accept any application submitted after that January 18th, 2 p.m. deadline. Currently, we are accepting applications by the following three methods. They can be emailed to inclusionary@somervillema.gov. They can be faxed to 617-591-3235. Or lastly, they can be mailed or dropped off in the form of a hard copy. The address is Somerville City Hall Annex, Attention Inclusionary Housing, at 50 Evergreen Ave, Somerville, Massachusetts, 02145. Once the application deadline has passed, all applications that include the necessary documentation, including the mortgage pre-approval and first-time homebuyer certificate, will be sorted into their relevant lottery pools. We will then assign all applicant households with a unique identifier, And that identifier includes some indicators as to the income limit, bedroom size, local preference, etc. of each applicant. For example, for applicants for an opportunity for 2-bedroom unit, their unique identifier will include 2B or 2BR. And for applicants for an affordable opportunity at 80% of the area median income, their identifier will include an 80. Please review this identifier once you receive it, as it can help you understand which pool you've been entered into, or pools, as well as whether or not you have local preference. Those selected at the lottery do not have to be present at the lottery to claim their place on the wait list. So once a winner is selected, or winners are selected, we will reach out to that household to complete an income, asset, and tax verification. At that time, we will request the last 3 months of income verification for all household members in all forms of income, 3 months of all asset statements, and 3 years of tax returns. We will give usually about a week for these households to respond and send in their initial documentation. So you may want to consider what documentation you have available and in good, presentable order, and what you will need to prepare in order to complete your income and asset verification. If you are found eligible in your income certification, at that time you will receive a proceed letter and have 15 days to sign a purchase and sales agreement and have a home inspection completed. Closing is usually completed about 45 days following the execution or signing by all parties of the purchase and sales agreement, so you have an idea of the timeline for actually purchasing, closing on the unit.
And for this opportunity, lastly, the application deadline date is going to be February 1st, 2022 at 2 p.m. and the lottery will be held on February 10th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
On this slide, you can find the information for the lottery,
which will be held on Thursday, February 10th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
The video of the lottery will be available on YouTube, likely within 24 hours, at which point we will have contacted the winner of the lottery for the opportunity to move forward with their certification process. So if you have not heard from us within 24 hours, you most likely were not selected at the very top of the lottery. We will post full wait lists on the Inclusionary website within 2 weeks of the completion of the lottery. The income documentation process often takes a few weeks, but households don't always qualify. So if you're selected second in the lottery for a unit, you may also want to prepare your income and asset documentation in preparation for a certification. It's very unlikely for us to reach the 3rd household on a waiting list for a homeownership opportunity, so you will most likely would not have the opportunity to purchase this unit if you are 3rd in the lottery. And please note that for homeownership, we do not maintain our lottery lists for resales. So if a unit from this opportunity were sold again in the future, we would once again have a new lottery, and the winner of that lottery would have the first opportunity to purchase the unit. On this slide are the documents required to be submitted for review by a winning household. We will require all 2021, 2020, and 2019 tax returns from household members, including all pages, schedules, and W-2s. We will need all asset statements, including for accounts with 0 or negative balance, all pages of those statements, even if pages are left intentionally blank, and also any verification of accounts that have been closed within the last 12 months. We also need the last 3 months of complete consecutive income statements and verifications for all household members. In the case of individuals that are self-employed, we would ask for a year-to-date profit and loss statement, along with a projected profit and loss statement for the next 12 months. If anyone over the age of 18 has no current income, they would need to provide a notarized affidavit, the blank version of which can be provided by us. If a household member over 18 is a full-time student, we would need verification from their registrar's office of that student status. And schedules of their classes are not sufficient proof in providing student status verification, so we will need an actual letter from the school. You should be aware that it's quite likely that we will require some additional documentation aside from this list in a certification process. As every household situation is different, it's hard to cover all of our bases in a presentation, and you should not consider this to be a final and complete list of documentation. Additionally, keep in mind that this is only required documentation for households that have the opportunity to move forward and potentially purchase a unit, and not all lottery applicants, so it's not something that everybody applying to the lottery is going to need. This last slide includes some additional information about this homeownership opportunity, where to find the information and application packets online, where to find a first-time homebuyers course, and our contact information.